right, so we've been doing inequalities, compound inequalities, and we've drawn on number lines and things like that to show what's going on once we solve the compound inequalities. Remember, the compound inequalities are two inequalities that are showing us some kind of situation. Two kinds of compound inequalities. We have the conjunctions, which are those and statements, which includes it's like once you're all done, all the answers are included in one space. And then we have the disjunctions, which are the or statements, and they're going in opposite directions. Now, rather than in math, rather than write these in very complicated ways with greater than or equal to or less than or equal to or all of that, we have a shorthand, and that is called interval notation. Now, an interval is a defined period of space or time, and that's kind of where we get this interval notation. So let's look at this. Let me bring this full screen and present. Okay, so getting started with this. So we're used to this greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. But now, instead of using these, well, let me stop here. We know that when we use greater than or less than on a graph, we use an open dot for these, and we do a closed dot for these two, okay? And that's what's shown here. With interval notation, if we're showing an open dot, we're going to use a parentheses. If it's greater than, we'll use this. Well, I'm not going to go there. It just makes good sense later on. So know that for the interval notation, if we mean an open dot, a greater than or a less than, we're going to use parentheses. Okay, I'm going to write that parentheses. And if we mean closed dot, that is greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, we're going to use a bracket. Okay. All right. So that's the start here. So know that brackets are the closed dots, the or equal tos, and parentheses are the open dots, just the greater than or the less than. Okay. So look at this example here. This is a conjunction. You notice that everything, once we finish, now this is the result of after the problem was done, we graphed that x is greater than -2, so greater than or equal to, so we had something going this way, and then x is less than 4, so we had an open dot and going that way. And remember, we were only interested in the overlap, all right? Now with interval notation, we're going to show that this space stops dead at -2, and it includes -2. So I use a bracket. And the bracket and the -2 tells us, dude, I'm starting at -2 and I include -2. And then we put a comma. And then we notice that it goes all the way up to 4, so we put the 4, but it does not actually include 4, so I use the parenthesis. All right, so that's a conjunction with the and statement. Now let's look at a disjunction with the or statement. Now these are going in two different directions. So on this one, I'm going to show that. Now, we've got a new symbol coming in here. And this is the infinity symbol. It's the 8 that fell over, right? So it goes to infinity. It just fell over, all right? It does not include -1, and it goes in the negative direction to infinity. So I've written -infinity. Folks, infinity is forever, and you can never, ever include infinity. So when you have an infinity being used, it will always be done with the parenthesis. okay? If infinity is involved, it's always going to be a parenthesis. So I've gone all the way down to infinity, up to, but not including -1. So I've got this. Now let's look at this one. It starts at 3 and includes 3. So here I have a bracket. Woo! But I go up to infinity. So I'm going to have my infinity symbol. But again, you cannot include infinity because it goes forever. I mean, that's silly. You can't include it. It's going forever. So I use the parenthesis. Now, what's this little weird thing right here? What is that? Well, this is let me show you. Let me go to the next slides to show you this. All right. So in the next slide, if you have a U, it's called the union. And it's not really a U. It's a funky little, it's an arc. And you always use those in OR problems. For intersection or overlaps, we'll use this, the upside down version of that, and that's the and. So if I go back, that's because this was a disjunction or an or, I used the union. So your answers are this or that. Got it? Okay. So now let's do one of these together. Oh, this is kind of weird. And I don't know. I want you to tell me if it's an and or an or. So what I do in cases like this, when I'm not sure, I break this up into two different inequalities. Here I know that x is larger than -2. So I'm going to write x greater than -2 here. And then I know that x is also less than or equal to 4. So I'm going to graph those two pretty quickly. And let's say this is -2 and this over here is 4. So I know I'm going to have an open dot here. And it's going to go into infinity that direction. And then I'm going to have a closed dot here. And I'm going to go in that direction forever. But remember, the stuff that's here is not part of our answer because it's not part of the overlap. So our answer is only included here. So let's start with -2, comma, and it's going up to 4. But now I've got to decide on parentheses or brackets. Does my answer actually include -2? No, it does not. Parenthesis. Does my answer actually include 4? Yes, it does. It gets a bracket. So this is the interval notation for this. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is an and because there's overlap. All righty. Oh, wait a minute. Now I have interval notation and I need to graph that. Oh, goodness. Well, it's only one thing here. Let's see what we can do. I know that my problem, it's -3, and I'm going to go up to 2 here. I am not going to include -3, open. I am going to include 2, closed. There's no infinity mentioned, so it's this space. I know it is an and. So if I were to write this problem, I would put x in the middle. I would say it's greater than -3, but less than or equal to 2. All right, let's try the next one. Whoops. All right, let's close that. This one. Oh, no. This one's a lot more complicated. Let's see what we got. All right, so I know I've got negative infinity over here. Oh, and I'm including -1. So I'm going to put -1 here. I've got a 4, so I'm going to put a 4 here. This is a union, so I know that this is going to be an or. Woohoo! There we go. So let's see. It includes -1, so I've got a closed dot, and I'm going to go off into infinity. Over here, I am not including 4, open dot, and I'm going to go off into infinity. So if I were going to write this as an inequality, I would write it as x is less than or equal to -1, or x is greater than 4. So that's interval notation very quickly. Hopeful this has been helpful, and I hope you have a great evening. Have a great day.